Welcome everyone to Thrashcast episode 11. My name is Ken and tonight I am your host. Now before we start, I just wanted to bring in my partners in crime, both Jim and Billy, and how you guys doing tonight?
Oh, good.
Great. Just
Awesome.
like Tony the Tiger would say.
Awesome.
I didn't see that one coming.
No, we did
Sorry.
not. No, that's okay.
I like it.
No problem. So tonight we're going to be discussing another Big Four band, and that's Anthrax. And we've decided to discuss Among the Living from 1987. Now, this is the album I consider the soundtrack of my youth, but we're going to break it all down, discuss the album, and then we'll go from there into the Anthrax back catalog, and we're going to rank 11 of their studio albums tonight as well. Now, before we start, let's just mention a few things on where you can find us. We do have our website at www.horrormetalsounds.com, and you can also find us right here on YouTube at KenG.2864. We also have an audio version of the podcast on Spotify as well. So if you want to go there, you can check us out there too. So before we begin on the album, I thought we'll start with our news items and what we're spinning tonight. So we'll start with that first. And Jim, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I don't really have any news items, but I'll tell you big news from last Friday. Kerry King's solo album. Well, solo album with an all-star, probably an all-star band. I mean, what an amazing album. And, it's funny because I'm reading a lot online. I mean, it got kind of a bit of an early sneak peek release. It was released on YouTube, probably purposefully, on Thursday. So, you got to listen to all the tracks beforehand, and I got the CD delivered on release day, which was cool. I mean, it's a massive thrash album, and I'm seeing online a lot of either people really love it or people really hate it. Yeah. And it's kind of weird because a lot of people are comparing it to comparing it to Latter Day Slayer, which is definitely true. For me, that's a good thing because I'm a huge Slayer fan. I didn't want them to retire. I thought maybe they had a few more albums in them. Respect the fact they did, but I got to respect the fact that Kerry King wants to continue along. And, the artwork inside is just phenomenal. I mean, it's pretty cool. And it's definitely a thrash CD. And, hey, for Thrashcast and Horror Metal Sounds, I'm going to release it, but there sounds like there might be an album review coming, Ken.
That's right, Jim. And for those, that's a little nugget for everybody for tonight. So look for that sometime.
So I don't want to give away my thoughts other than the fact I really like it, but I rate, it's going to get a rating, and I want everybody to read it and check it out. But everybody should at least check out, they should check out From Hell I Rise for themselves and make your own decisions up, but and I'm reading a lot of, like I say, and a lot of the reviews have been fairly positive. I'm just a lot of fans, I think, wanted a lot more, but and then there's a lot of positives out there as well too that I'm reading. So kind of a really big cross section. I mean, the plays on YouTube, I think many of them, some of the singles have been out for a few months now, and they're well over 1 million views. So somebody's really watching it and spinning it. So, but anyways, look out for the actual album review coming soon.
Absolutely.
I saw a funny meme going around this afternoon. It was the album cover was a merging of like the Death Angel logo and the Slayer, and it's like the new Slayer Angel album is finally released.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Kind of funny.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look at that.
Just about an hour ago, I saw it floating around.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen it. I'll have to look for that. That sounds really, really funny.
Well, I have a buddy on the Metal Voice, and just to give kind of a little bit of a plug, Perrin, who's on the Metal Voice, always speaks about bands that like have two sides. It's like if Slayer and Death Angel had a baby. That's his big thing. He'd always say, like, when he talks about bands, if this band and this band had a baby, this is what it would be. So I can see why a lot of people are saying that.
Yeah. I've only gave it one spin, and I didn't think it was bad. I'll have to listen to it again. a couple more times, but there are a few tracks that are pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know, I wasn't keen on some of Mark singing, but that's just my personal opinion. But a lot of people like Mark on the album, and Mark is a really, really good singer. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Cool.
Maybe more music in the works. Who knows?
Cool.
So, all right. So I'll go next for my news related items. Now they're both both Anthrax related. So Joey Belladonna is actually doing some dates this August, I believe. A small tour. He's got 4 dates announced on his website at www.joeybelladonna.com. Dates from August 15th to the 18th. He's doing a tribute. I think this is part of his tribute cover band. He's doing Dio, Sabbath, and Rainbow cover songs. So that's sort of what he's been doing in his spare time. From my understanding, I think there's going to be more dates, but he's just announced 4 for the first time. Well, at least for August. But I guess there's going to be some time in between. I'm assuming they finished recording the Anthrax album, the new one. So I guess he's got some free time on his hands. So that's cool.
Cool.
And the other one is just kind of like, this album's been out for years. I was spinning recently Red Lamb, and that was Dan Spitz's solo band from 2012. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good, like hard rock, thrash, a little bit of power metal. The band, they originally was called Deuce Monkey when Wade Black was the vocalist, but when Wade quit, for some reason they had actually had Dave Mustaine was attached to be a part of that band, so they changed the name to Red Lamb. And then for whatever reasons, Dave never joined the band, so they put out one album, and it's pretty good. It's kind of forgotten nowadays, but if you can find it, I think it might be on Spotify, but I actually have a CD copy of it. But it was just something I was spinning just to get myself ready for Anthrax and hearing Dan play guitar again. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Wicked.
But that's all I have tonight. I don't have much either. And of course, Billy here, who is our festival goer and goes to all the major metal festivals, just went to one this weekend. And Billy, why don't you take it away and give us some details about that?
Yeah, so just got back today actually, but so this is the Milwaukee Metalfest, and surprise, surprise, it was held in Milwaukee, which I guess makes perfect sense. But yeah, it was held Thursday, May 16th to Sunday, May 19th. So it actually was a long-running festival that was put on hold and never came back for quite some time. But for those who know the band Hatebreed and the singer Jamie Jastra, he actually bought all the rights to the festival and brought it back to life last year. So I think that's pretty cool, right? Like he's really taking the flag for this festival thing here in the US. And so, like I talked about when at Hell's Heroes, right? I mean, these US festivals that are trying to compete with the big European festivals, I mean, we got to try to support them, like get our chance to go there. And they're all reasonably priced. And this was a great, I got to say, a great experience. I was pretty impressed with the overall festival. It was held in this club called the Rave Eagles Club. And I use the term club loosely because this thing was one of the most massive standalone buildings I've ever been in. It essentially has 4 venues inside. I mean, it probably has like 20 bars, massive space for like vendors to sell stuff. But the main venue with like the biggest bands, one of the most beautiful halls like ever, like, and it holds 4,000 people. This is indoor on the 3rd floor. It holds 4,000 people. The sound was fantastic. The views were excellent from everywhere there, like bars surrounding it. The venue has like 20, 30 bathrooms. And for anyone who goes to a lot of festivals, sometimes you could in the bathroom line for like 30 minutes. But yeah, this was great. Then it had like another major size hall where sort of the next level of bands played. There was one, fairly large hall that was they're not even using in the basement. Then there was one that was a little bit more like a club, like a bar. So picture your local bar where some of the smaller bands play. There actually was like a bar right in the venue that was taking up a lot of valuable space that could have been used for people. Like that, my one minor complaint there was that was really small. Like bands like Havoc, like there was no way to get in. Everyone was spilling out of the venue. Like people were holding doors open so people in the hallways could try to hear the band. But it was the same thing with Heathen. Like I was able to squeeze in, but like it was just jam packed. So that was maybe a bit too small, but I guess they got to manage, for attendance and how many tickets they sell. So, but yeah, this venue is hands down one of the best concert, probably maybe the best concert venue I've ever been in. It's just incredible. I would say, in terms of the bands, lots of great stuff, good mix of things. Thursday was pretty cool. It was a pre-party. It was a fairly short event, but it was the Jamie Jastra and his solo band. But they brought on all kinds of cool guest stars. So, they have a new album coming out. It has like a cool and Justice for All type album cover for anyone who hasn't seen it. And it's filled with the who's who, like Bobby Blitz is on there, and Zetro and Scotty, and there's all filled with guest stars. So I'm going to check that out. But yeah, the band was very good. It's old school thrash. He's the singer of Hatebreed, but this is like his side project that's far more thrash oriented. But man, he brought Bobby Blitz on stage and did like killer, like overkill songs, right? So obviously did Elimination, but nice. They also did stuff from Tempo of the Dam, which was really cool. Cool. So that was cool. Then Steve Zetro's on the stage, and he's doing old Exodus classics. And then he brought his son on to perform as well, because Hatred was there as well. So that was kind of cool. Then he brought on members of Biohazard and Madball from New York, and did like mini New York hardcore set. So that was cool. Fairly short, but that was like a cool way to kick off the festival. Highlights for me on Friday was definitely Overkill. Symphony X was some cool power metal. I rarely get to see them. Visigoth, another power metal band, was cool. Yeah. Night Demon, Blind Guardian, who Ken and I had just seen probably the week before, but they were still pretty cool. And Autopsy was great nice. That cool. Day as well. So typical of the festival, like a nice mix of bands. Saturday for me was the first of the DTA tour, Death to All, so the Death tribute. Municipal Waste was great. I would say the two bands that brought the biggest crowds the whole festival was Testament and Municipal Waste. So wow. Municipal Waste, everyone grabbed the garbage pails and they were like flying around the mosh pit. That was pretty cool. Deicide was amazing. They did an old Terrorizer set, the band Terrorizer, and Testament, of course, was great as well. On Sunday, I would say the best of Sunday again was the second DTA set, was really cool. Exhumed was really good. They did various things like pretending to cut people's head off, and there was I don't know, I had to leave early to go to one of the other shows, but when I got back to that venue, there was blood all over, blood all over the press pit. So I don't know what the hell they did, but I missed the ending. thing of the show, but that was cool. Atheist was awesome. So you guys know me, technical Clash and Death is my favorite. But Skeletal Remains played, that was really good. But the highlight of the whole festival for me was I Am Morbid, which is David Vincent and Pete Sandoval. Their tribute, not tribute, but their version of Morbid Angel. And having those two guys in it, those are two of the biggest parts of the original band. But to hear those old Morbid Angel albums was just incredible. So that was the best thing for me. So yeah, a great festival. Good mix of styles. I mean, Sunday was a bit interesting. Like, it wasn't so much for me. Like, I mentioned some good Sunday bands that I liked, but they were mostly afternoon bands. Most of the evening bands were more like, I don't know, newer metal, maybe, like Lacuna Coil, a band Avatar, which packed them in. Slaughter to Prevail was the main headliner. Then you also had In Flames that were there. So there were a lot of, it seemed like the crowd mixed out. A lot of people showed up for those bands that weren't as interested in Friday and Saturday, and vice versa. But one quick story, I know I don't want to take up so much time, but I was watching DTA, and after the set, there were like these 3 girls and 2 guys. I'm gonna guess they were in their early to mid 20s. They're all wearing like Slaughter to Prevail t-shirts, and they the band. I don't know if the band wears the mask, but all the fans wear those face masks from the album cover, and they're sitting there and they're like, so what? The one guy says, so what do you think of DTA? And it was so funny, right? Like, I think the words were something like, it was kind of, so this is DTA, obviously, with like the best metal musicians, right? You got Gene Hoglan on drums and Steve DiGiorgio on bass, and you got the sitting guy on vocals, and but anyway, so they're like, very generic and boring, and it sounded like they were trying too hard.
Oh my God.
I'm thinking like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut here, but like that's exactly how I feel about Slaughter to Prevail, who they were clearly here for. But I mean, I get that's what festivals are, right? Like different music, right? So you bring different crowds. I'm good with that. Like that was okay. I left it slightly early. I didn't stay to watch Slaughter to Prevail, so I got a bit of rest at the hotel that night. So, but yeah, overall, I'd say a great festival. I'd recommend anybody, just like Hell's Heroes, to try to go to it. I think we need to support these events, and
of course.
The ticket may have been like for 3 days of like nonstop music, something like $200 US.
That's not bad.
Maybe
it's good.
Like very reasonable. So everyone seemed to have a good time. So yeah, highly recommended for people to check that out.
Cool.
And then just on that note, maybe a quick giveaway. So I picked up an extra t-shirt here from Milwaukee Metalfest. Pretty cool front design, and the back is really cool too. Name, and then it lists all the bands by day. So I think it's a pretty nice t-shirt. So we're going to give that away. So we're going to do a question for folks. So just post your answer in the comments. But the question is, go back and listen to our Power Trip and New Thrash podcast that we did last week. As Ken mentioned, it's on Horror Metal Sounds, our usual place. And at the end, we each did our top 10, or not top 10, but 10 new thrash bands that we're into. So the question is, pick one that we each named. So Ken, one pick from Ken, one from me, one from Jim. Go ahead and put it in the comments, and then we'll randomly select one, and then I'll ship it out to wherever it is, wherever you might be located.
Wicked.
So
yeah,
good deal. It's good deal. Cool.
Anything else? That's a wicked shirt. Yeah.
Very nice shirt.
Yeah, they're nice.
All right. Anything else you want to add there, Billy, before we move into the album now?
No, not really. I mean, incredibly quick. These things came the Awakening
Nice.
Records
Yeah.
Oblivion stuff. I've given these a plug like at least 2-3 times.
Nice.
But here they actually arrived the morning I left to Milwaukee. Haven't
Cool.
had a chance to open them yet, but
Cool.
that's pretty cool that they're out.
So
Nice.
Billy,
Yeah.
did you get like a Slaughtered to Prevail mask?
No. No.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't too impressed by all those masks everywhere, but what the hell? I don't know. Again, like I don't knock it, right? It's not for me.
No, I'm only kidding.
And I know those fans obviously didn't like half the bands I enjoyed the most. So
Yeah.
that's the way it goes.
Are they like deathcore or like what kind of music is it though?
I think it's deathcore, right? Like
deathcore. Okay.
it has like electronic. Like I actually tried to listen. Like I went on and like when I was at the airport, I was flipping through albums and songs. Like definitely deathcore vocals, right? So for me, I don't know. I mean, it sounds weird, like for us who are thrash and death metal fans to say the vocals are too noisy and too loud, but like that's what I think. Like to me, it's trying too hard on the vocals, but it had like electronics mixed in the music and hardcore. It had everything under the sun mixed in it in that band. So
cool.
Not for me, but I mean, obviously a lot of people seem to like them.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I mean, everyone likes what they like, right?
That's right.
And we're gonna discover that tonight.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. With that little segue, let's move into the album Among the Living. So we'll do a quick bio. Yep, Jim's got it right there. Perfect. Anthrax was formed in 1981, Queens, New York. They did release their first album, Fistful of Metal, in 1984. And on that album, they had Neil Turbin as the original singer. So Joey joined the band on album number 2, which was Spraying the Disease. But actually, his debut on an Anthrax album was on the Armed and Dangerous EP in 1985, before Spraying the Disease came out that later in that year. So Among the Living is considered their breakout album. It's all the band moved from like small clubs to big arenas and stadiums. The album went gold, and the lyrics on this album are like all social issues and some pop culture thrown in. It was released on March 16th, 1987 on Megaforce Records. This album is also dedicated to Cliff Burton, and as most of us already know, it's well documented. Anthrax they're touring with Metallica during that fateful bus crash in Europe when Cliff Burton died. So that had a profound effect on Anthrax as well. And it's well noted that Scott has mentioned it many, many times that when they did record Among the Living, the album sounded really angry, and at that time they were also trying to process the death of Cliff because they considered him a friend too. Just a few quick tidbits before we start. Now the album was recorded by the famous Eddie Kramer. So at the time when he was engineering and co-producing the record, he was clashing with the band because he wanted to actually do the mixing in a modern kind of sense. But of course, the guys sort of wanted to continue recording it with down-tuned guitars. And at that time, Eddie didn't really understand how to record down-tuned guitars, and how to distinguish that from the bass and the drums. So I know that's been noted by Scott on many occasions about the clashing there. So beyond that, I just also wanted to mention, I've talked about this in the past. The artwork is by Don Brodingham. Don also did the cover to Master of Puppets. So it's kind of cool that there's like some sort of connection between early Anthrax and early Metallica. The one thing about the cover that we will discuss tonight is that the cover itself, there's been some debate about the image of the cover. Now, there is a guy on the cover with the hat, the very famous in the crowd. Some say it is Henry Kane. He was the protagonist from Poltergeist 2. Yeah, Jim's got it there. Or it could be Randall Flagg, who was the great evil in Stephen King's The Stand. Charlie Benante came up with that idea for the cover, and he's kind of mentioned that in his mind, it could be either. You could look at him from as either protagonist, but he feels that was the idea that evil lived among people. So I thought that was kind of an interesting. I always thought that was an interesting tidbit. So before we start with the album itself, I thought we'd ask you guys some questions to give me your thoughts. So the first question I was going to ask was about Joey Belladonna. I wanted to know where you rate him among thrash singers. And Jim, we'll start with you.
So, I rank him pretty high. I mean, you know, Anthrax has had 3 singers. So, you know, and I like all 3 singers. So, well, obviously including Joey. So, you know, I like Neil Turbin, and I like obviously Bush as well. I'd rank him kind of. If I was just ranking out of the big 4 singers, you know, I'd probably rank him probably 4th out of the 4 that are there, only because I'm a huge Megadeth fan, and you know, obviously James Hetfield I think is really good, especially in the early days. You know, Slayer. I mean, Tom Morello. I love Slayers. So you know, he's probably much more melodic than probably the top melodic one, but probably out of my favorite, I'd probably rank him 4th out of that group. So out of Anthrax alone, I don't know if this was a separate question, was it? Or
no, just in general, just a general
like
question.
Out of Anthrax alone, I like Neil Turbin's first album. I thought he was pretty talented, but obviously, you know, and Bush was awesome. Belladonna is the voice, as far as I'm concerned, of Anthrax. So, but I mean, I have no problems. You know, I liked Bush singing the Belladonna songs. You know, Turbin's first album, or the only album he did, is actually, you know, I don't want to give anything away, is one of my favorites. So I've got it. It's all kind of intertwined, but I honestly think, you know, he's definitely the voice of Anthrax. I mean, that's just the way I feel. And that's, you know, I think most fans do. But I mean, I have nothing I thought that Sound of White Noise was a phenomenal album. And my favorite Bush album, you know, at that time. So, you know, when he took over, I wasn't totally disappointed. It was a little bit different of a turn, but you know, it would be cool. I think it would be cool they do a tour and maybe both singers. That would be wicked, you know, or at least something like that would be kind of cool, because there's a lot of Bush fans, there's a lot of Belladonna fans. So, you know.
Well, they did. Don't forget, though, they did record on. I think it's "Attack of the Killer Bees." That one song with Bush and Joey on it, which I thought was a really good song.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool. And one more thing, though, Jim, just to add to your point, there was a fourth vocalist.
I was just going to say that. In between Bush and Joey coming back. Yeah.
Dan Nelson was hired.
That's right.
Yeah, but the thing with Dan is that there is recordings on YouTube of him singing live. He was sort of like Bush, but amped up. Like he was just a much more amped up kind of singer. It almost sounds like he could sing for Pantera. Like he had that presence. But what I've always heard is that he was an asshole off stage. He pulled a lot of pranks because he was a lot younger than the band. And they didn't appreciate that, and that's why they let him go. Originally, he did record worship music. It actually was recorded by Dan Nelson. When they fired him, they decided to bring Joey back, and then Joey had to go back in and re-sing all those songs that were originally recorded with Dan. But
imagine if Joey said no, right? Like, where would they have been?
Well, they'd be screwed, because they did originally try to go back to Bush, but Bush
he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
No, because he was back with Armored Saint and he was happy being with them. So luckily Joey went back, which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So before I give you my take on Belladonna, I'll let Billy go. Now, I know Billy and I were talking previously. He's got some different takes. He might have some hot takes here. But go ahead, Billy, and give us what you think about it.
So on that note, I'm just going to open with a disclaimer here. from my perspective, like I've never been the biggest like Anthrax fan. Now I've always followed them since the 80s, right? Like every time a new album came out, I still bought it. Still wanted to check them out, see what they were doing. I've probably seen them like 20 times live. Like I actually like them way more live than I do on studio album. But just for me, I mean, we can't like everything, right? So personally, it just never really connected with me. Like I always think the vocalists were a mismatch from day one, whoever it was. And I don't mean any disrespect for any of my comments that might come. I mean, I fully respect what they've done, and I know they've accomplished a lot. So again, just this guy's personal opinion, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but shall share it. So, like in terms of your, I'm sorry, what was your first question, Ken?
It was just where do you rank Joey among thrash singers? Like, how do you look at
okay.
him? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, like ranking him, I mean, strictly from geez, I gotta say, I think Joey's like probably one of the most talented singers in the Big Four, right? Just strictly from a skill set, like a vocal skill set. But for me, he just doesn't. I don't find he's suited to thrash. One thing we'll discover, like when not to give away my rankings, but there are definitely some albums I really like with him. But those were albums where they started to move slightly away from thrash, or they still had bits of thrash. So you probably know where I'm going with that. But so to me, he was a better fit there than he was. So I would say out of all the thrash bands, like not only the Big Four or the Big Four in Germany, or even the whole next tier of American bands, like I think he kind of ranks at the end, and just a personal taste, because I don't find, like I find sometimes he's too melodic and happy for the underlying music, especially on the album we're going to talk about today. It just kind of sits out of place for me. But again, I think he is a good singer, right? Like you can't deny the fact that he's really good, and I would say for Anthrax, he's probably still my favorite Anthrax singer. Like I like John Bush in Armored Saint, but not in Anthrax. I don't think he fit. Like I think the band totally changed under him, partially due to John. He's a different singer, but also like in the 90s, thrash was dying out and all the bands were going all over the place. But so yeah, unfortunately, like in talent, I rank him towards the top. But in terms of fit to thrash, because the question was thrash, I rank him at the bottom.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, that's a fair comment. Yeah, I don't agree. I personally I like Joey. I like the clean. I like the melodic vocals. I think it works for Anthrax. It's a bit of yin and yang, but I felt on a lot of the earlier albums, the strength of the vocals were always backed up by, if you've noticed, there's a lot of Scott Ian who does a lot of the backing vocals. So he gets a lot of the gruffer style in the background. So I always thought there was a good yin and yang mix for me. Now maybe I'm biased because it's my favorite band, and I've actually spoken to Joey a couple times. When Joey got kicked out of the band, I always felt really, really sad that he got kicked out.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I thought it was terrible. I thought what Scott did to him was awful.
Yeah.
But Scott was the one who felt that they wanted to change the style. They were unhappy with the way, and maybe what you're saying is right, Billy. How you felt about Joey. I think Scott was having a similar feeling. He just didn't. He felt it wasn't working, so they kicked him out. And then Joey put out some solo albums, and he's put out like 3 solo albums. Yeah. I love the first solo album; it's great. The second album, Spells of Fear, is pretty good. It was his third album, 03. It's called 03. I got his email, and I actually wrote him an email, and I just said, "Hey, dude, I'm a huge fan. I love your work." And we started talking, and he sent me back this really nice email. He was really complimentary about the fact that I took the time to write him. He actually sent me the album 03 for free. He just mailed it out to me and like, here you go. And like, oh, that was really nice. So I always appreciated that. I always felt that he never really got his due. And it's too bad. It's too bad for what happened. And I appreciate him for lots of reasons. So he was in a movie called Pledge Night, a 1988 slasher horror film, which he played Acid Sid.
Wow. Okay.
As a kid, as the young version to Acid Sid. He was in that, and Anthrax actually did the music to the soundtrack music to that movie. So I mean, I could appreciate the fact, and I don't mind the fact that he has this Chief Bigway cover band where they sing like Foreigner, Journey, and Bad Company songs. It's kind of funny that he does that, but I guess that just reflects his style and his range and his pitch. So it makes a lot of sense. But I really appreciate him. I think he's the only true singer to Anthrax in my mind. Bush is all right, but I've always preferred Joey when it comes down to it.
And I agree with, I think you guys both said it, right? Like Joey is the face. Like to me, anyone else in Anthrax is not Anthrax.
Exactly.
Like I get Turbin, right? They started out with him. He was like an original like singer. So that makes sense. But I don't know. Yeah, the switch to John Bush and I never really knew, like I knew at one point Joey was like heavy into drinking and like partying, and Scott had to pull him aside. I was watching a documentary, and Scott said they pulled him aside and said, if you don't fix it, they're going to have to let him go. And he actually stopped drinking like pretty much after that. So I never really understood, or I don't remember like why he got fired, right? Like I guess, as you said, Ken, they didn't think he was a fit. But it's funny, their biggest success was with him. So like how could they think he's not a fit? Because he's he was the face of the band.
Well, what's funny? When they brought him back for the I guess 2.0, it was Charlie. Charlie was the one. Charlie and Frankie got together, and Charlie's like, we have to go get Joey back. So they kind of went above Scott, and I think at the end of the day, Charlie and Scott are kind of the co-captains to Anthrax. So Charlie was the one who apparently reached out to Joey, and Joey apparently was like totally like he was into coming back. He's never, that is his bread and butter, Anthrax. So it makes sense.
It's probably his best paycheck for sure.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And when they did that reunion in 2005, when they brought back Dan and Joey, the reason why it didn't stick after that tour is because it was money. They didn't want to pay them. They just didn't want to pay them what they thought they were owed. So again, both just walked away and never came back, which is, happens in a lot of bands these days when it's always about money. But so we kind of answered my third question, which was who is better, Bush or Belladonna? So you guys have both answered. But before you go back, Billy, I just want to let Jim has to say, because I think he might be more partial to Bush or appreciates Bush a lot.
Oh, I do. I look, Belladonna's and I think Billy, both of you guys hit it on the head. I think maybe subconsciously, maybe his more upbeat vocals is maybe what makes me, because the other three, I'm just talking big four here because I didn't want to get into, but like you're talking the other three, a lot of people would probably put Mustaine as maybe their fourth because a lot of people do have a problem with his vocalization, but I love his vocals. I think it matches the music. And I think maybe you guys are right where you're singing thrash and it should be maybe that little bit darker. And maybe subconsciously, I just realized that, wow, maybe that's why. But I got to be honest with you. I thought, I think maybe part of it was, Sound of White Noise came out in 93. And such a huge Anthrax fan. I got to see them on the Persistence of Time tour where they opened for, I think it was No Prayer for the Dying for Iron Maiden.
Yeah, Iron Maiden, yeah.
So, and I've only seen them once. So, and they came to Halifax. They put on one hell of a show. And, but I think I was so much loving Anthrax that I was so worried about John Bush taking over. But then it was really good. And I think maybe the change in time at the time, like Billy had said, I love Armored Saint and I like Bush much better in Armored Saint. But I got to admit, I love Sound of White Noise. I think it's a phenomenal album. Yeah. And, but as a vocalist, obviously the sound of Anthrax, I would go with Belladonna. I love that Turbin album, though, I got to admit. And I like him as a vocalist. And Bush, though, it's some days I would probably put Bush in front, and I know that'd be sacrilege to the true big Anthrax fans, but it's just And you know what? I'll be honest, like probably Sound of White Noise is probably my favorite Bush album. You know, and I don't know if there's too much more I like. So, but it was such a strong album for me at that time, and I think that's probably why.
Yeah.
One thing I my view has always been, so I agree. I mean, I don't know if we're getting into ranking here, but Sound of White Noise is hands down the only John Bush era Anthrax album that matters.
Yeah, we all agree.
Okay.
I'm with you guys in this one. So,
but like, is it just me? But like, to me, that album sounds like the next Armored Saint album after Pain of Salvation.
A little bit, yeah.
That should have been the progression. That should have been an Armored Saint album, not an Anthrax album.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I don't know. Like, it just, to me, like they bring him in, and like he obviously had some writing say, because it sounds a hell of a lot more like Armored Saint than it does Anthrax, which was a shame. Despite me liking that album, it was a shame. I think that they changed that much. But anyways,
interesting. Yeah, I could see that. You raise a really good point. I didn't think about it in those terms, but now that we're talking about it, yeah, I could definitely see the Armored Saint influences.
And you know what? The other thing that I like about it too is when everybody, as we know, we've talked about so many albums that sort of went into more of a Pantera kind of going into that Pantera direction. These guys didn't. Maybe more of an Armored Saint direction, which was super cool. But I thought they kind of they obviously tweaked it quite a bit, but they didn't go into that whole we're going to change everything and try to sing like, you know, Pantera and try to just kind of emulate it to a degree. You know what I mean? I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, yes, obviously there's maybe a little bit of more of an alternative, you know, vibe there, just where it was different than the actual full thrash onslaught of Anthrax. But I think it was nice that they didn't just go off and try to emulate another band. So,
well, they did.
I definitely think there was some groove metal in those other
true
albums. But I mean, they even had Dimebag on two of them.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Dime did help them out quite a bit on a couple of those records, and they're not that great records. The guitar tone sucks. I don't like the guitar tone at all. But we'll get into that later on, because I have a few thoughts about that. But anyways, so one final question, and I just wanted to get your take on, and I know Billy's got a hot take on this one, but before I get to Billy, we'll go with you, Jim. What do you think about Anthrax as part of the Big Four? Because I know they don't get as much love as the other three bands.
You know what? Yeah, and I get that. I'm a huge, like, it's all about, with me, it's all about continuation of the Big Four. So, like, you know, I don't, Slayer obviously deserves to be there, but they're not putting out anything new. So it kind of upsets me a little bit that, original Big Four, and then even Metallica, and okay, I just kind of contradict myself because I'm talking about putting out new stuff. Metallica does. But, you know, I like Metallica's, obviously, their earlier stuff, like anything from even Black Album and back, and it's a stretch for me with the Black Album. But, you know, at least I guess they're putting stuff out. But Anthrax is putting stuff out, and Megadeth is putting stuff out. So I would probably, you know, for this, I would rank them probably second or third behind Megadeth for me. You know, old school Metallica would be first, but Metallica as a whole now is sort of, maybe they've kind of dwindled down over the past few years. So for me, I would definitely go, probably they'd be my second pick right now. I love Slayer, and Slayer deserves to be there, but there's so many bands like Overkill and Death Angel, and you know, so many bands out there that are putting out material. Like, I mean, Overkill, you know, just had an album out last year, and they just keep pumping it out. And you know, and Slayer stopped. I mean, Slayer's obviously got a discography that is phenomenal, and they are the you know, one of the granddaddies of thrash metal there. But on the same token, it stopped. So, you know, for me, it's kind of like a continuation type thing. So, but I mean, Anthrax keeps going. The only criticism I have about Anthrax, the only thing is, I find when I'm reading a lot about their live shows and stuff, they do so many cover songs. And I know a lot of their albums do have cover songs on it, But I just think that and they don't mix up. I guess you could say the same thing about Megadeth. They don't mix up their set list a lot. It's generally a lot of the same stuff. And even if they when they did tour for their new album, I don't believe they had a ton of stuff on there. Maybe only a couple of tracks from what I remember. And that's the only complaint I have. Other than that, I mean, I can't wait for the new album. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, me too. So, Billy, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, no. So I actually took some time to think about the question, right? Because there are some things they deserve credit for, right? That did make them unique in the Big Four. Sorry, my voice is going in and out. Lots of talking during 4 days of concerts at the Metalfest. But so yeah, a few things, right? So one, the band I think deserves credit for having, although it was not my favorite part of the band, but they had a sense of humor, right? That set them apart. From everyone in the Big Four and most of thrash, right? They didn't take themselves super seriously, right? You'd never see Slayer like doing jokes and funny logos and like stuff like that. But like another thing I think versus the Big Four, they were easily the most influenced by crossover and punk coming in, especially the backing vocals and their chorus structures, and that was very much like that. Also making them unique, obviously, geography, and that probably is why they had the crossover piece, right? East Coast, the other three are West Coast. And then a big one again, it didn't really work for me, but they weren't afraid to take on new challenges, right? Like none of the other Big Four were teaming up with Public Enemy and doing rap crossover songs, right? So whether you like it or not, kudos to them for trying something different. I mean, they even did a tour with Public Enemy, and then they would come back and do that song together, right?
On the Man, and they did their own. They did a rap version on the Man later on too.
Bring the noise.
Yeah. And then also, in terms of uniqueness, we already talked about it, the singer, right? Again, willing to take a chance, right? Everyone else, and Jim hit it, right? People, tended to be a bit more aggressive and not as melodic. But again, they took a chance with Joey. So that there they stood out. And then I guess at the end of the day, which is maybe not such a good thing, but they were a band known for revolving door of singers. Right, none of the major bands did you see this type of in out switches, and so that was really unique for Anthrax relative to the Big Four, and arguably, maybe one of the reasons why they were always considered the fourth of the Big Four. There was no consistency. True. So yeah, I think a lot of those things, what made them unique, they deserve credit for. I mean, I may not have liked it, but that's just me. But kudos to them for doing a lot of different stuff, and it surely brought in their fan base.
Well, I think the other thing that they did, what sets them apart, is the fact that they didn't, because they were endorsing skateboarding and they were wearing board shorts and T-shirts and Bermuda shorts. A lot of the bands that we're talking about didn't. They all were all Metallica, leather denim kind of thing. So they did something that was their image was a lot different. So I could kind of see where it set them apart. Yeah. But you have to also consider what it did in terms of they were on a Married with Children episode for crying out loud. Joey made a horror movie. They did a lot of different things, and also their lyrics are interesting. Yeah, some are funny, but they drew their inspiration from Stephen King, David Lynch. They took a lot of their stuff from in comic books, we'll talk about
superheroes.
Yeah, that's the reason why I fell in love with them, is because they did things that I liked. I'm a movie buff. I love horror films. I love comic books. So it spoke to me on that level, and that's the reason why I love the band so much. But I think they are unique. They are a unique band, and it's great to see that Joey came back to the band again to be their front man. So, but it's I guess like Jim was saying, it'll always be interesting. You had Slayer, and then nowadays you can't even call it the Big Four anymore, because you got bands like Testament, Creator, Sodom, Destruction, or all these bands are still playing and putting out significant albums still. So
Yeah.
Second tier is the new big four.
Exactly.
Overkill, like that's
I would agree,
in my opinion. But
no, you're right. I totally agree with you. I think the big four is not Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax anymore. They were, but not anymore. You're so right about that.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. That was a pretty good discussion. So let's get into the actual album, Among the Living. So we'll start with the first song, first track, number 1, and that is Among the Living. And Jim, start us off.
Oh, I mean, it's a great. This album is an awesome album. I mean, I remember just a quick story. I had this album. I bought it. I had a job when I was in high school, and I think I paid $13 for the cassette, which is big money back then. So I had this acquaintance friend in my geography class, and he borrowed it. And I didn't want to say no, and because I didn't want to give it to him, lend it to him overnight. Anyways, he brought it back to me, or he had to go buy me. He gave me $13 because his mother found it in his backpack, and she destroyed it. So I destroyed my Anthrax tapes. I had to go back to the store and buy another one. And anyways, lesson learned. I didn't lend it again. I ended up just dubbing it for him and giving him a copy. But this song starts it all off. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's like there's so many massive songs on this album. It starts off with Among the Living. The chorus is amazing. I just love the guitar work in it. It's a great thrash song, and it's a great song to get the whole album going. I love it, and I mean it's just so many big songs on it. I consider that one of my favorites on the album.
Cool. Yeah, it's I love that song.
Yeah.
And what about you, Billy?
So I'm gonna go out of my way to pick out the things I like. So I think it's got a cool intro, right? It's like slow and ominous. The way the riffs sort of open the song, it's got some good pacing, right? Like it has this slow start, then it kind of picks up to a mid pace, and then it gets into like a nice grinding pace. So some good tempo changes there. Like I will say one thing, and it'll come up all the way through. Like musically, I enjoy the album. I think the band is very good. Like the bass lines all over this.
Yes.
They're monsters. And I love, maybe it's the technical metal guy in me, I love bass forward music. And this is definitely a bit, so I'll give him that. And like Charlie's a great drummer, right? Like he's got unusual drumming, interesting drumming, not your same old boring stuff that you got Lars doing these days. Full kudos to him on that. So I think musically it's a great song. The guitar lead work is really good here. There's some cool moshing parts that I like, but we got to get back to. So that's a lot I do like. So that's good. But then again, like it's just the vocals for me, right? Like I just don't think, especially when the songs get really thrashy and heavy. Again, personal taste for me, he's kind of out of place. He's just not aggressive for the fast pace of the music. And I know, Ken, one thing you mentioned that I think you said you liked or something unique about the band vocally. But for me, like the backing vocals become very overdone on this album. Like it becomes a formula, right? Like some of the songs they're just, for again, my personal taste, the backing vocals are so overdone, and it's the same backing vocal formula, right? Like a band like Overkill uses backing vocals very effectively. They don't overuse them. Like to me, like some of these songs, not so much on Among the Living, but there's 4 or 5 songs where there's just too much backing vocals, and they're the same style, right? Joey shouts, they come back in. It's just too repetitive and formulaic. For me, like there's no deviation. But go ahead and prove me or take a different view. I know you guys feel differently, but
no, I mean that's a fair comment. You could look at it that way. I mean, subconsciously, did Scott think that Joey wasn't good enough or aggressive enough, so that's why he had those like over the top shouts in the background? I like them. For me personally,
it adds to it.
Yeah, I agree with Jim.
I
don't agree with your take, Billy, but that's fair. I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, That's fine. I'm not going to argue with you on it. This is a great song because first of all, it's Stephen King's The Stand, which is one of my favorite horror novels of all time. And of course, Ian and Charlie were both huge fans of Stephen King. So I love the fact that you got the lyrics are like, talking about the walking dude, which is referring to Randall Flagg. He's seeing, he's calling, his legacy is spawning, he's calling, he's corrupting among the living, follow me or die. That's great. That's fantastic. I love it. So it's a great song for me. I love the fact how it speeds up at the 1:30 mark, and then Joey is somewhat aggressive. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any problems with any of the vocals on this album at all. But to each his own. And I think this is an iconic song. I know it's one that they play a lot. Every show that I've been to, they've always played this song. But yeah, I think it's a great song for me.
And I think that the vocals, sorry, Ken, but I think the vocals, like when there's the backing vocals or the gang vocals to some degree, I think it adds to it where it gives you that just that double layer of feeling like this is a massive thrash song. But now, Billy has me second guessing from when he said earlier that Joey's voice is pretty kind of high and a little bit more happy but I think it really suits it. And I love, and we're going into the next song, which really has it. And I mean, you gotta have it for that song. I mean, anyways.
Yeah. And it's not so much that they use backing vocals. Like when we did the Overkill podcast, that was one of the highlights of most of the songs.
Yeah, right.
It's just the backing vocals are exactly the same on like 5 of these songs, right? Like Scott's using the exact same style approach on every single like backing vocal. Right. It was more that it's repetitive and overused versus I don't like it. It became too tedious by the end of the album. But again, that's a personal taste thing.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I've never looked at it from that point of view, but I get you can, I guess, if you want to look at it from that point of view. I've always felt that I'm on Jim's side with this one. I think the backing vocals add to the song.
But
for me,
wouldn't they be more of like? I mean, didn't Spitz and who else? There was 3, wasn't there? Frankie Bello, weren't they? They were doing backing vocals too.
Yeah,
correct?
they were.
Yeah. I think it was.
But I
know Scotty Ian was the more prevalent one.
Yeah,
he could have been probably the singer.
Yeah. I think distinctly you hear Scott more in the background than you do Frankie and Dan. Yeah. But so he's got a point about that. But it is what it is. All right, so let's go to Caught in the Mosh. And Billy, what do you think of this song?
Yeah, so it's again. So I'm not gonna. I mean, I'll go with the stuff I like, right? So again, we talked about the bass, so like a cool bass-driven intro, like I love that. Again, just bass lines throughout this track are really strong. So like kudos to Frank for that. Like for me, it's got a punk and hardcore influence again that comes through on this track for me. I really like Spitz's lead work here. And Scott Ian has some cool, like groovy riffs on the track. I like that. Again, Charlie's drumming's like a standout, like across the board. Like that's going to get a bit repetitive, but again, so this is one in particular for me, where Joey just sounds out of place. And again, this is one that's really like heavy on the backing vocals that sort of distracted from me. So that's kind of where I stand.
You do hear a lot of Scott on this one. Yeah. He's up the front. You can hear him. Yeah. But interesting. So Jim, I take it from your reaction, you like the song. So what do you think?
I love this song. This song is amazing. I mean, this is one of Anthrax's best songs, and I love the fact that if it's fully Scotty Ian's backing vocals that are taking over, do it every fucking day of the week because it makes the song. And you know what? And I musically, it's a perfect song. I mean, Billy said it all. I mean, the guitar work on this is phenomenal. There's killer riffs, but that caught in a mosh, and the chorus and that, and you got to have that kind of gruff overlay, and I think it's really cool. I love that. I think it's more, for me, it gives me kind of more substance. And yeah, you could say, well, the sign of a really good singer is, he kind of performs it, and the backup is just there. And probably when they record it, they maybe tune it down. And this, they're tuning it up, obviously. But I mean, you got to have that. I think it just makes it that much better of a song. And I think this is the type of song that, besides the albums previous to this album, this album definitely got them big four status. I mean, this album, in my mind, this is an anthemic song. And this, when people think of Anthrax, there's a handful of songs that you just totally think of. This is one of them. Probably the next one's one. There's another one going to be coming up soon. Anyways, and then, but this is just a wicked song. And I love you know what? Frig it. Let him sing the song. Let him sing those parts. I'm good with it. But I can understand where Billy's definitely coming from. And he's got me thinking now. He's got me rethinking my whole life. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's true. But I never really thought of it that way. I just thought it was maybe planned that way. Everybody knows that Scott Ian's kind of, like you were saying, him and Charlie are they kind of have the band. So
co-captains, yeah, exactly.
So I would assume he wants his piece in it no matter what. But I mean, this song it has to have that. I mean, this is the whole part of the song that I absolutely love, and I love the kind of, I'm going to even call it dual vocalization with it. So
cool. Yeah. Now this is funny because this song is inspired by Scott, I don't know if this was like at a show that he was at or if it was one of the concerts they played, but he witnessed a guitar tech being attacked by a crowd and thrown into a mosh pit. And it inspired him to write the song because it's all about like intense energy and chaos. And that's what inspired the whole idea of being in a mosh pit. So I think that's kind of funny that's where the song came from. But Billy's right. The Frankie's bass line kicks in. It's really, really good. He's probably a very underrated bassist for the most part. He deserves a lot more credit than he normally gets, I would think. I don't mind. I like Joey's vocals here. At times he's kind of spitting them out almost like he's singing like a punk in a punk style. Maybe he's trying to keep up because of the pace is so frantic.
Yeah.
He's just trying to spit those lyrics out as fast as possible. But I think it adds to the song for me. So, I mean, I love this song too. And it's another song that it's in their live staple. They play it all the time. Maybe they play it too much, but.
No, Billy, you know what? It's interesting because you said on our Metallica podcast a few weeks ago when we were complaining about the bass and that, Billy said, well, on my system, I always had it down tuned. And I love the fact that you don't have to do that to this because the bass is so prevalent and you're 100% right. This is a booming bass album. And I think, maybe some of the other bands of the time should have probably maybe went a little this way. I mean, I don't know this was before that, but still, and that's true. I think that's a big part of what makes this. You got that booming drums and you got that killer bass lines throughout all the songs.
I would go on record and say of the big four. I don't know. Some people may be like, this guy's crazy, but the best bass work on the big four thrash albums is Anthrax. Right, like Cliff was a great, nothing but great respect. But there's no way Cliff was doing some of this cool, unique bass playing. He was a little bit more standard on the Metallica albums. Right, he was a great guy, but he didn't stand out, and he didn't have the bass work wasn't as interesting as it is in Anthrax.
Very true. Point. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So we're going to go to song number 3. I'm going to kick this one off because it's probably
you need to.
Well, lots of reasons. I am the law.
You're going to arrest me. You two are going to arrest me.
Well, Judge Dredd might, but I Am the Law. It's the second single on the album. It is based on the 2000 AD character Judge Dredd. So for those who don't know. The song is actually co-written by Danny Lilker. So that was one of the 2 songs that he's he's credited for writing on the album. This song is, I love this song, and when I first heard, and it's odd because when I was buying, like, in the early 80s, 2000 AD, which is a British publication, they licensed out their characters to an American company called Eagle Comics, and Judge Dredd was the one comic that came out, and I was reading it. So when I heard this song and I heard the Anthrax, I was like, holy shit, we've got somebody singing about Judge Dredd, which blew me away because I'd never heard that in like metal or thrash metal. So that's where my love and connection comes to the song. But it's a great song. There's like a heavy riff. It's got that relentless chug all the way through. I love the gang shouts. Billy, you might not appreciate that. I don't know if you do. But I love Joey's, like, he's got a high pitched scream throughout. It gets frantic, like 3 minutes and 30 seconds in, it speeds up, it goes crazy. And then Joey's got that great scream towards the end of the song. And the lyrics just basically scream Judge Dredd. And I've read enough Judge Dredd comics to know that, yeah, they got it down pat. But this is a great song. What do you think?
Ken, who in Anthrax is the horror and comic book guy?
Charlie and Ian.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Charlie's if you look on the back cover to Among the Living, Charlie's wearing a night I think it's he's wearing a Dawn of the Dead t-shirt.
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So he's wearing.
Oh, okay.
So he was a huge George Romero fan, but they were huge Stephen King fans, George Romero fans. But yeah, Charlie and and Scott were the two big horror fans in the band. So, all right, Jim, what do you think?
Oh, I love the song. It's another anthemic song. What's great about it, you don't even have to know about Judge Dredd to figure out that this is about Judge Dredd. And, Stallone was Judge Dredd, in that movie. And the storyline is almost identical to the friggin' to the lyrics. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, except for, he had Stallone going kind of like, I am the law, so anyways, but anyways, it was the cursed earth and everything. I mean, I was 16 when this album came out, so like this stuff just sang to me big time. I mean, just like everybody from the big four at that time, which was, death, destruction, and this was kind of a different outlook, having a comic book and talking about like the last song, Caught in a Mosh, and just some really cool stuff. And knowing about the album cover, because I always thought it was Randall Flagg, and I had seen that. They actually had a few interviews in comic book stores in New York over the years, Charlie and Ian, where they would be chatting and they were there checking out comics and stuff, and that was kind of cool. And but no, this just is a different take. I mean, musically, the song is amazing, and I just love the chorus on it's awesome. And again, you don't even have to know about Judge Dredd to know. You just follow the lyrics and you've pretty much got kind of the gist of what the comic series is about. And on top of that too, it's just a different topic. I think, Anthrax's topics were getting a little bit like, it was a lot of fun for sure. Even though this is a bit more of a darker album, there's a lot more darker songs coming up. But I thought this one was a really great song and a really fun song, for them to do. I thought it was pretty cool.
Absolutely. And Billy, what's your take on the song?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of interesting. Like, certainly no other thrash bands are singing about superhero characters. So, but what I've said it before. Like, I'm not a big lyric guy, so I don't really care what they sing about. But this one might shock you. There's 2 songs on the album I love, and this is one of them. Yeah, no, I like this one, and maybe it's because I also enjoy it live. Like I've heard, they always play it.
Right.
Like there's songs like Indians I can't stand to hear, right? I'm going to go for a beer when they start playing that because it's just played too much. But this one definitely stick around for. But yeah, again, everything. But here I think it's like a super catchy chorus. I actually don't think the backing vocals are overdone here. Like
okay.
here, they're actually using it in a matching way, and it's not overdone. So I'm okay with that. I actually don't mind Joey as much here, right? Like there's 2 points, like at the 3 minute mark and at the 4:45 minute mark. He actually does, and Ken, you may have said this already, but he does some pretty cool like screams, like you said.
Yes. Yeah.
And they do, like, it reminds me of like, like vocally, like something Watchtower technical thrash, right? Like it was kind of unique. So I was good with that. I liked it. Just a great like anthemic song. And like I actually like it. So I don't really have anything negative to say.
Okay.
Wicked.
That's cool. We're glad we converted you on one song at least.
Can you guys guess what my other one?
Two.
Can you guys guess what the only other song I really like on this album is? I bet you could.
Skeleton in the Closet.
Ken?
Yeah, I would think the same.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
that's a wicked song.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to NFL. Nice fucking life. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I know it's spelled backwards, but
yeah.
All right, let's go to this song. And Jim, what do you think of it?
It's amazing. This is a great song. I mean, when he's singing it backwards, it's pretty cool. And then they're chanting, "Nice fucking life, NFL, nice fucking life." I mean, it's an amazing song. Musically, it's another. Just the whole album musically is phenomenal. And again, I like these sort of the play off for the vocals. I think it's pretty cool. And this is another really good song. And I can imagine, I can't even remember the full set list. I don't know if they played this or not. They might have. They were only on for like 50 minutes. So they played a lot of Persistence of Time. But, it's a great, great song. And I can imagine seeing it live just gets the crowd going before they maybe even play Caught in a Mosh or something. And it's got that sort of anthemic chanting. I think this, you've got Caught in a Mosh, Among the Living even has it, NFL. I mean, obviously Indians later on, but you've got a lot of these anthemic songs that are just great to kind of throw your fist up live. And that's what it's all about sometimes,
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Billy?
Yeah, so this one's not one of my favorites. Here in particular, like I just find the vocals are too happy sounding, and to my ears are just way too out of place. Like I do like again, musically it's the same thing. Like I do enjoy the upfront bass and drums, and some good crunching guitar riffs. But here's one again where I find they're just going back to the well with those choruses. The backing vocals, right? It's so formulaic for them. It just doesn't do it for me. And so this is the third Anthrax album. And I kind of look at the progression that, even though musically I like a lot of it, but I just let's look at the songwriting and like Metallica's third album, Master of Puppets. I mean, they just progressed so much with where they got on the third album. Like I also think Anthrax is like 5 steps behind the level where they were going at in terms of the songwriting creativity. So, and I know you guys will disagree. Like that's kind of unique for me, but this is again just a song that doesn't do anything for me.
See, no, I like this song because it's a tribute to John Belushi.
Yeah,
which is what I like about it. So, it's funny. I don't. Not that I'm going to disagree with you, Billy, but I don't get the happiness. I don't see it in Joey's vocals, but that's just my opinion. I don't see it that way at all. I feel the lyrics are very venomous. Like they do cut deep because it's making some interesting, I guess, assertions about John and being famous. So I don't know. I don't necessarily feel that the song. I think it's a clever song to me because you're saying "nice fucking life" backwards, which what thrash band would do that? Like, I just find it interesting. It's not Metallica, but Metallica weren't really jokers. They were into serious music, and that's how they wanted to write their stuff, which is fine. but I wouldn't want Anthrax playing Metallica. That would suck. I mean,
I mean, I'm not saying they should be playing Metallica. Like, I'm just sharing my view that,
yeah, no,
like,
yeah,
for me, I don't like the humor and like it's thrash music,
yeah,
right? Like, if I want to go, like, let them do that on an SOD album, or let them go do that on like a song thing. But I don't know. That's just me.
Sure. The funny thing, no, Billy, to be honest, they did really. I know Jim and I did another podcast on it for Persistence of Time, but that album technically does sort of abandon all the humor and goes for something a lot darker.
Well, wait till you see my my ranking and where that's at.
That's probably fair
enough. But yeah, I mean, I like.
But I agree with you. That's why it's going to stand where it stands in my ranking.
Sure, that's fine.
I agree 100% on Persistence of Time.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. We'll get to that. All right. So track number 5, Skeleton in the Closet. Billy, we'll go with you first. What do you think?
You'll let me go on this.
He loves it
because I like it. So, I mean, for me, this one's like, my favorite song on the album. I mean, this one like shreds right out of the gate. Again, I don't want to keep saying the bass and the drums, but I mean, to me, that's the backbone of Anthrax. And again, Scott Ian's like stomping guitar rhythms are kind of all over this. And right, like the vocals are, I mean, not my favorite, but I will say at times Joey does sound a little more aggressive on this track, and I hear him more in his lower range, which I like. To me, that fits a little bit better. And here again, I find the backing vocals are not overused. Right, there's a big difference between backing vocals here and some of the others. It's more effective here, right? It's kind of like the way Overkill does it. But yeah, I mean, killer leads. Like, I love the lead work here. Good mix of tempos here, and this one almost, if I'm going to pick one song that has some like technical musical elements, this kind of has it as well. So yeah, I mean, this is my favorite on the album.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Jim?
It's my favorite on the album. What I love about it is I love the chorus, how they kind of mix it up and I think that's where, Billy, you talk about the Overkill, where they angle the chorus kind of in 2 or 3 different ways, where it's like, and a skeleton's in the closet, and then they're, they flip it around as they're singing the chorus. I think it's pretty cool. And musically, I mean, I'm going to fall back on it. It's a kick-ass thrash tune. And I think it's another anthemic song for them. I mean, it's probably not one of the, I mean, if you asked a hardcore fan, I think a lot of people probably get sick of track number 6 a little more than this, in my mind, is the best song on the album. And it's probably maybe not played as much as a lot of the other material on this album, but I absolutely, it's a wicked, wicked song. Everything from the chorus, the guitar riffs in this, the drum, I'm just repeating myself over and over again, but it's my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, this song I would agree, and again they go back to the well, so they decide to go back to Stephen King's apt pupil for that short story to tell the story about a boy who idolizes a Nazi war criminal and then slowly develops this desire to kill. Great. I mean, I've seen the movie. The movie's really cool, but I've read the short story as well, so this is great material for them. But as I was saying, they're like the only thrash band that went to Stephen King, because I can't recall any other thrash bands who use Stephen King a lot to create songs. So that's why I think it's so unique. And it is a dark, heavy song. I love the gang shots are great. I just think it's a great, it's such a powerful song. Heavy chugs at the start, the rhythm, the drums, everything just kicks in. It's perfectly, I guess, for like the 5-6 minutes that the song is, it's just perfect from like beginning to end. So I can see why Billy likes it. I get his drift. I see why you like it too, Jim. It is a really, really good song.
That's a fist pumper, man. Like, in the closet, that's what gets me going with thrash metal. And, and I just love it. It's got that that groove to it. That's so cool. I like it. Yeah.
And the punk vibes, I get punk vibes out of this song too.
Huge.
So just some of the way that Joey delivers the lines. And yeah, it's a kick-ass song.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to a song that it seems a lot of people are a bit bored about, which is Indians. So I'll go first. This is the first single on the album, Indians. I don't have, I like the song. I don't think it's overdone to me, but I guess that's opinion. Everyone can have their opinion on the song. I love the song because Joey has Native American roots. His mom is a Canadian Iroquois, so I think that's kind of interesting. It was a personal song to Joey. Of course, they did the video, and the video got play on MTV and stuff like that. So that's great. The tribal drumming at the beginning with Charlie's great. Then it just kicks in with that fire, that chug out, and it doesn't stop. So I think it's great. And I looked at it, I was reading a lot of comments online, especially on YouTube. There's a lot of Native Americans, like with backgrounds in Native Americans, were actually like commenting saying that they love this song. And I think it's great that I guess it reaches a certain kind of person or culture. So I think it's great. And so these kind of songs are kind of important. And I don't think it's goofy at all. It's kind of a serious song because it's talking about the idea of how Native Americans are treated, and it's great. I mean, I don't think Joey wrote the song, but I'm assuming he had a hand in or saying how the song was recorded and delivered. But
the whole band wrote it.
Okay, the whole band, yeah. Because I wasn't really sure if it was just because I know Scott writes the majority of the lyrics, and I know that Charlie writes lyrics, and Charlie also writes music, because Charlie also plays guitar, as well as drums. So I mean, I know that when it comes to the band, it's usually Charlie and Scott majority writing the music and the lyrics. But okay, so what do you think, Jim?
I mean, okay, putting the fact that it's played a lot, I mean, I think it's an amazing song. It talks about the plight of Native Americans or natives really anywheres, and I think that's definitely. I mean, they were miles ahead for maybe their. This is definitely. You've got kind of maybe a fun album. We were talking about comic books and horror movies and stuff like that, but then to throw in, a definite social issue, I think that's pretty cool. And you're 3 albums in here, and maybe things are starting to possibly mature a little bit. I mean, I like the funness of the comic books and that, but I thought this was pretty cool. And I think you're getting a message across in any way, a positive message is good. And I mean, it's got probably the most recognizable riff and, a bass. Like the whole thing is just as soon as they, you start playing it with those drums and that, exactly what it's going to be. But I can understand, like with Billy, it's kind of the casual fans Anthrax song, I would say, even though, I mean, I think it's a great song. I've always loved it. And the single, I'm glad it got a lot of MTV and Much Music play because, again, it's sometimes it's about the message, and I think that's great. And knowing Joey has, a personal roots with that, I think that makes it even more special. So, yeah,
would agree. How about you, Billy?
Yeah, so I guess mixed thoughts on this. So yeah, I do think it's overplayed, right? Like, you watch a video channel, this was always on. It's in every damn concert. So yeah, but I mean, musically, like I don't mind it. But I mean, and even Joey, like I don't think the backing vocals are overdone on this track. I'm okay with it. Like I guess where it goes off the rail for me is that melodic part of the chorus, right? Where the cry for me, like whatever the Indians part. Like, to me, that just sounds out of place, and it's a personal thing, right? Like,
wait, you mean the war dance when Scott shows
up? No. Like, I just mean that main like chorus where Joey's singing very melodic, right? Like the bass Indian chorus. But the best part of the song is like from 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 4 minutes and 30 seconds when you hear like the shout out. Like I think it's Scott, right? I think you said it.
Yeah, it's Scott. Yeah.
And he does war dance. War dance. Like musically, it's the best part of the song. It's for about
I would agree.
Like some really unique drumming and some great solo work. And so yeah, for me, that's the best part of the song. So and I guess sometimes I want like I think the topic was good. Like not a lot of people were bringing attention to this. Like I grew up in Montreal, really close to one of the biggest like native reserves in Canada, Ganawaki. And so I had a lot of friends there. I went to school with people in university who lived on the reserve. So I appreciate that. Like I almost wonder, like, I mean, but then this is the 80s, right? Like I think some like even the song name or like the imagery in the video with like the like with what
Address.
natives were like some of that's like a bit over the top. Like it may not be politically correct.
Not today.
Some
No.
of that today. But again, I'm not going to knock that. This was in the
Yeah.
80s. So good thing. I think it was worth bringing attention to it regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it was the 80s, so.
Of course, different time, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to track number 7, One World. And Billy, what do you think of One World?
Yeah, so this is one of those that like I know a lot of people seem to like this one. So like I mean it's interesting, like at the beginning and towards the end, like some of the leads, like at times I hear Maiden and Megadeth in this song. I don't know if it's just me, but at times I definitely get that. Like at 3.5 minutes, there's some really good like Dan solo work on this thing. I enjoy that. But like some of the chorus again, like they lose me also. Like I don't like this 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I don't know what's going on there. Like get some lyrics. But yeah, I mean, maybe there's a reason for it. Like I don't know, but the chorus is just kind of samey again. And this is one where again, to me, my ears, it's an over reliance on the backing vocals become too much in the song, and takes away from Joey to some degree. But yeah, I'm kind of mixed here. Like Ian has some great crunching guitar riffs and. But yeah, like I think vocally and parts of the chorus just lose it for me.
Okay. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, it's probably not one of my top songs on the album.
Okay.
But I mean, I've got good respect for it. I actually wrote down that it definitely has a Maiden vibe to it. So I hear that as well too. But it's just, I don't know. I think I mean, this album, the first half of it is pretty phenomenal. So I mean, there is some songs coming up that I really, really like, probably more than this one, but it's a good song. It's if I was to pick, it'd probably be maybe my weaker one on the album, only because there have to be a 9th song, and that would probably be it for me. But still a good song, and I know a lot of people love it, and it's I think it's on most of their greatest hits and stuff like that, their live albums.
I think so.
Yeah. So but it's just, for me, it's a maybe 50-50 on it. I could take it or leave it. It's good. It's, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, I like the song overall. I don't have any particular. I'm not divided like maybe the both you guys are, but I think it's a strong song for me. I like the fact that they wanted to. Maybe it's just where you guys might think it's a bit meh, is just because it's a typical kind of trope where they're talking about the state of the world, which a lot of these thrash bands back then wrote lyrics about the world and where it was going, and so the song definitely has that in droves. But I like the song overall. For me, anyways.
I think maybe if it was the first song, and maybe they put Among the Living here because that's a kick-ass song, maybe it would I would feel, for me, probably better placement in the sense of, okay, get my attention, because right now I'm going all over the place. We've talked about social issues, we're going through comic books, horror, and all the kind of stuff. Maybe by then but then we're going into the next song, which I really, really like. So.
Okay, well then, with that being said, start us off, Jim. What do you think?
Oh, this is a wicked song. This is a total thrash track. I love the acoustic intro, and I think it goes for about 1 minute until the song gets like super heavy. And I kind of get the feeling that this could have even been maybe 2 songs kind of melded together in one.
Well,
You know what I mean?
they say it's a medley.
Is it?
So
Okay.
So technically, it is kind of two songs into one.
So like ADI would be probably the acoustic portion.
The medley, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that makes total sense. I didn't even realize that until, but just me, I've always liked this song, and I think it's got a great spot on the album. And I mean, it's a kick-ass thrash song, and I think the vocals on this probably Joey's, man, one of the best songs on the album vocal-wise for him, I think, anyways.
Yeah. Well, the medley that you were talking about, it was inspired by Cliff's death. So this is the first song that Scott wrote when they got into the studio, because I guess they were affected big time by, Cliff's death.
Right.
So the ADI basically, and well, the whole song itself is I guess a tribute, or at least their reaction. That's what Scott said. Scott has said that this song it really affected him. So that's why it's such a powerful song with all those monster riffs.
Oh, it's a wicked song. Riffs for miles. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And also this song actually appeared on the Return of the Living Dead Part 2 soundtrack as well. Which is not known by a lot of people, but it's not a great film, but they were a part of that soundtrack. But I like this song. What about you, Billy?
Well, it's a song I completely love and I completely hate.
Oh, okay.
So musically, I pretty much really enjoy the song. Again, like I like the slow acoustic intro. It contrasts with like the grinding, chugging guitars that come later. Again, instrumentally, I'm not going to say it again, but like, the bass and the drums are really good. Like I really love the song when it hits the 6 minute mark.
Yeah,
because this is like one of the longer songs. You get about a minute and a half of music. Just love the killer riffs, and this part of the song, the last minute, like I actually like Joey singing more aggressive. I hear Maiden like a bass line guitar all over this last minute and a half. Like I think it sort of really stands out. But then the rest of Joey's vocal performance from of course the first 2 to 3 minutes is instrumental, so it's not there, but I can't explain like how much I hate Joey's vocal in this thing, right? When he's like the highlight is singing like whoa, oh, whoa, like when he's give the man some lyrics to sing, right? Like that is so cheesy and generic, right? Like I don't get that at all. Like I hate when he does that on the album. So again, I don't want to sound too hard. Like I said, I love his ending, the way he's singing, but when he starts doing the woes and the oh-ohs, again, that's just generic, right? Like that doesn't belong in thrash, and that doesn't do Cliff any justice. Like I can't. I detest it. Like that's how much I hate. Like the last 2 songs. Like I really dislike Joey's vocal performance. I can't even explain how much I dislike it. I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, as you can see from Jim's reaction and my reaction, we don't agree.
Yeah,
and I don't think Jim agrees either.
Oh no, I love that last song.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I feel the same. I like the song. I like the lyrics again. Like you can hear it. Like they're talking about loss, pain, grief, and how you deal with that. The concept that losing someone that they're never going to come back. I like the song. It works for me. But
I like the song. I just don't like Joey's vocals.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you're not a fan of the way he sings the song. I get it. That's fine. I don't know. I like the 2-prong attack. I like the medley. I think that's kind of neat. It's a staple in a lot of 80s thrash. You open a song with a little bit of a acoustic beginning, and then you rip into the song right afterwards.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good. All right. So the last song in this album is Imitation of Life. And Jim, what do you think? I think you like it.
It's a great way to end off the album. Okay. This is, I would probably say this is the most punk sound on the album, I think. And I get I like the high pitched vocals on it. And I know Billy's gonna rip it apart, but I love it. I think it's got such a great heavy intro to it. And I mean, I like the vocals on this one. I probably even like the vocals on this better than some of the hit songs, but I mean, I love the hit songs. I just find it's got a really cool crossover sound for me, especially in the vocals. And
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I like it. Usually lately I've been pretty good though. I mean, last episode I liked the ending of the album. I haven't been shitting on the last song lately, and this one's definitely not going to get it. I think it's great. And the only criticism I have with the album, I think they could have put on maybe another song. They could have put on another song and made it an even 10, and go forward from there. So, 10. So I think that probably would have made more sense to me if they had something else written, But anyways, I know I love it. I like the way it ends it off, and I like the high pitched vocals on this. So, anyways, that's my feel. That's my take.
I like the laugh at the end too. I think the laugh kind of works, and then it fades out. Like it's a maniacal kind of laugh, and then it just fades out.
Yeah,
it sounds like a jet plane taking off. Just, I don't know. This is what I saw out of it. Okay, and Billy, what do you think? Obviously, you don't like the vocals. We know that much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, hands down, I almost don't get it, right? Like how I'm so different, right, from you guys. But again, we all hear things differently. This is the worst song on the album. Like, to me, this song sounds like they weren't together. They all recorded pieces, and then they put the damn thing together, and nothing fit. Like I'll agree, it's definitely very hardcore and punk feel. Like, I do like some of the tempo changes, right? Like, at times they even use like for one of the few times on the album, like a more of a slow overkill like style, like chug, right? Like they tend to do. So those are the but it's the part of like Joey keeps doing this vocal, like, and again, I like high vocals, I like screams. It's the staple of technical like metal. But like he does this out of control vocal wail. Like, it's not controlled. Like, it just, to me, sounds totally out of place. Like, and for him, like, he's a great singer. Like, to me, he's not using his talent, like, to do that scream, right? It's just, like, vocally, it's not right. Like, I don't get it. Like I just dislike those. They come out of nowhere, and they're just, like, they penetrate the ear. Like, I don't like it. Like, I really hate that cartoony speaking voice that pops up, like, 3 or 4 times through the song. Like, again, that's not needed in here. Like, it just, again, like, all these things feel like they all like they needed another song, and they all recorded pieces somewhere else and put it all together. Like, I just don't find it's cohesive in any way, and it's one of the worst closing songs of all time on a thrash album.
Yeah, man, I don't agree at all. I'm totally on the other side of. Well, first of all, the song is actually credited to Dan Lilker. So again, he co-wrote the song.
Yeah.
Well, that makes some sense with the heavy hardcore punk feel.
Yeah. Which he's into that stuff for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I like the screams. I like the off-kiltered screams because they add to me. They're scatological and they're unique because no band does this. And this is what attracts me to Anthrax for that reason. It adds to this. It just adds to the overall sound. I don't know, but that's, we both see and hear things differently, so that's fine. I think it's a great song. I love the fact that the title of the song is taken from Douglas Sirk's 1959 film with the same name, which I thought was kind of interesting. I know the movie, but so I don't know how they took that title and made a song out of it, but whatever, they've done that. For me, I like the fact that the song, like as Charlie has stated, the song is definitely about fake people. So he's referring to the music industry and the radio industry, that people that I guess they've encountered. So I like it. I think what you were saying, Billy, about the "Let's do lunch, babe." Is that the line that you kind of didn't like?
Yeah, there's that cartoony voice. It comes up like 4 or 5 times.
I think that is Dan Spitz.
I don't know. I don't care who it is.
I'm pretty sure that's. I'm just saying. I think it's Dan Spitz. Let's do lunch, babe. But I think but the line, it's mocking. Like, it's meant to mock. That's why I think they're trying to mock people in the industry who who did stupid shit or said stupid shit. So I think that's why I don't mind that line. I like it. It's because I think it's kind of funny. I know you might think it's out of place, but I generally like that song for me. But to each his own. To each his own.
And the other thing I forgot, and not to like bring on another negative here, but like that main guitar lead doesn't even sound like it belongs in the song, right? Like it doesn't even sound like it's recorded the same way. It totally like if you listen to the song, like it's not even mixed in the same way. Like I love the guitar work on this album. It's one of the best things about the album. But on this, that lead's just totally out of place, and it sounds like it was recorded somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not too sure the origins of the song, how they recorded it, or what they were thinking at the time. I mean, I'm on side of Jim's camp. I kind of think as a song, it ends well.
Hey, I mean, I get it. I'm going to be the minority, right? I'm going to probably get hate comments like in the in the comment section. At least I'm giving away a T-shirt. Maybe that'll help offset the hate.
It's funny, Billy, because when I was on YouTube, when you listen to it, all the comments are like super great. Everyone loves it. Everyone's praising Anthrax. It's just funny. Like you're the only person that I've actually heard who doesn't, who has some disagreements with the album, which I just think it's funny. But to each his own. To each his own. Yeah. I will admit though, like when we were talking before we recorded, like last week, you were mentioning how then you started saying like, well, I'm not gonna. You started bringing up a few comments about how you didn't think they belonged in the thrash and the big four. And I was like, holy shit, this might be like a total argument podcast of us just arguing back and forth. So I was a little wondering how you're going to handle it. Like, well, he's got those kind of takes. My God.
I found positives to everything.
Oh, I know. I'm not knocking you in any way here, dude.
I probably spent more time preparing for this podcast and not just come out with negatives, right? Like I went out of my way to find positive things.
Well, I appreciate that because I mean I think everyone has a right to an opinion, so I'm good with that. It's nice that you did find good stuff out of it despite it not being one of your favorite records.
Yeah. So I got a question. Can I ask a question of you two guys? Yeah. Not to sidetrack us, but so I know you guys both love this album. So then, compare these the big four, the top albums of think about their 80s output. Do you feel that listening to these Anthrax albums like this and State of Euphoria and do you think those hold up as well in 2024 today as the 80s Slayer, Metallica, and Megadeth albums do? That's also my issue. I find this stuff is so dated and just doesn't feel like it fits, like it sounds, as well. It hasn't aged well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Whereas the other three in the big four, I still love those albums as much as today as I did back then. Just curious what you guys think on that.
Dude, I'm the opposite of you. I think they're relevant today. Okay. And I listen to these albums all the time. I love State of Euphoria. I think State of Euphoria was a great record. It's got a lot of really good songs. Maybe for me the difference here, Billy, is that I'm into pop culture. I'm a film guy as well as being a comic book fan. I love horror films. I love movies in general. So I love the fact that the band has decided to take like for example on State of Euphoria, we're looking at Now It's Dark, and it's based on David Lynch movie. And I like that. And I love David Lynch. So for me, I don't necessarily feel the way you feel. So I feel that it is relevant in my mind. I don't know. Yeah. It's personal preference, I guess. But what about you, Jim?
I think it's different. So that's what makes it stand out in the big four. Now, okay, you talk about the first three albums of all four bands. I mean, these are legendary albums, but I think you have a very Venom-esque sort of kind of heavy vibe in at least the first two Metallica albums, and then you have in Slayer, you have that as well. And then in Megadeth was formed on just the fact that Dave hated Metallica, and I love that. I think that's great. That's my feel. I think that I still, there's a part of me, and this could be another podcast where should have Dave got kicked out of Metallica. I love Dave Mustaine. I love Megadeth. So, and I love the fact that these albums are angry. One of my favorite Megadeth albums, So Far So Good So What. And he's so pissed off in that album, and it's probably not his best album, their best album. And, I keep calling it his best album because that's pretty much it. So, but, this one has its kind of spot at the table for four. It's got its spot at the table because it's so different. And I think that, vocally, musically has some similarities, but maybe a bit lighter fare. Vocally, definitely lighter fare. And in a lot of cases, even the subject matter is a bit more on the more fun and like Ken said, pop culture. And I think that's where they have their seat at the table. And it all can't be just this, it's got to be like everybody has a seat at the table, so to speak. And that's where I think of it. And I think they stand up today. But I'm also a huge John Bush fan from the, one or two albums more so. And I like that as well. So they progressed for me fairly good in the 90s, and I go back to Sound of White Noise all the time. Probably and I always bring up Motley Crue. And everybody's like, wow, why do you keep bringing them up? Because I think the 94, the Karabi album is their third best album. I think it goes maybe Shout at the Devil or Too Fast for Love. You could talk about either one of those are pretty good. And then the third best album is that 94. Everything else they put out was garbage. And I think that these guys brought out Sound of White Noise and just took it in such a cool direction that they just kept themselves so relevant. So you can have so many different sounds of it. But I think just speaking of the first few albums, I think they're super relevant today. And I listen to them all the time. I'll go into an Anthrax kick, a Megadeth kick, an old school Metallica kick, where that's all I'll listen to. Right now, I'm listening to a lot of Slayer because of Kerry King. Solo albums out, so I've been just listening to a lot of that, and it's been getting me back into that. So, but I'd say Anthrax is generally on a monthly playlist with me at some point, especially this album.
Okay, so just me again.
That's okay, dude.
Hey, you're honest. Right. That's what's good.
I mean, it's fair. Like, if we all loved it, it wouldn't be such a great conversation. So
no. But when you think about it, this is what, our 11th podcast?
Yeah.
And this is the first time in 11 we have really any disagreement of any kind.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fair enough.
I mean, some of the ranking, we've had some differences, but generally, there's been no extremes between the three of us. This is hands down the first one.
True.
And there'll be more, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, because we all have different tastes eventually, so. All right, well, we'll segue that into our final segment for our podcast, and that is the album rankings for Anthrax. So we've decided to rank 11 studio albums. And who wants to go first today? Billy, Jim?
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it, Jim.
Okay, so my 11th and 10th could be interwoven. Stomp 442, I got as 11th. And Volume 8, The Threat is Real. Okay, Stomp 442. Fueled, this came out right after Sound of White Noise, and it was a bit of a letdown, although the album art's pretty cool, and I believe that Bruce Dickinson wanted to use it for Balls to Picasso.
That's right.
He wanted that artwork for his album, so that's kind of neat. But I don't know, I just found it wasn't that good compared to Sound of White Noise. And then my 10th, Volume 8, that could even be my last one. Crush is not bad on it, but I'm not keen on that one either. Believe it or not, you're probably going to kill me, but Persistence of Time is my 9th.
Wow. Really?
And it's like...
Holy shit.
Can you guys do a podcast on that? And
we did.
Both raving about it?
We did.
I didn't rate it a 10, I don't believe. I can't remember, but because I didn't like the cover on it, and
I love the cover.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I ranked it 9th. Number 8, I went with We've Come For You All. Taking the Music Back's a good song on it, and it's a good album. My number 7 would be All for Kings. I mean, that's a really good album. It could probably even be higher. I like that album. And like Evil Twin, Monster at the End. These are some good songs on there. I really like it. What number am I on? Number what, 7? Worship Music. In the End's a good song. I think that's not a bad album either. My number what, I can't even remember. Hold on.
6. You're at 6, dude.
I'm at 6. Hold on. I went 11, 10. Sorry. 9, 8, 7.
Yeah, you should be 6.
Okay, somewhere I lost one here. I don't know where I lost. But anyways, State of Euphoria, I've got as number 5. I thought I was hitting 5. But anyway, State of Euphoria I have as my number 5. I mean, that legendary album. I love it. I've got my number 4 is Sound of White Noise. Love that album. Only. I mean, that's a wicked song. Potter's Field. There's so many good songs on this, and it has such a killer sound. I love it. Number 3 is Spreading the Disease. Madhouse. This is a great album. And then so it comes down to this in the first, and I've got Among the Living as my number 2. And my number 1 is Fistful of Metal. I love it. It was the first album I got. I got this in a bargain bin, I think at Wilco, along with probably Kill 'Em All at some point. And it just blew my mind. There's so much good stuff on that. I mean, Metal Thrashing Mad, Soldiers of Metal, Death from Above. Yeah. There's such good songs on here that I believe there's even a cover of I'm 18 on, and they do a pretty good cover of that. And it's just, I love it. And I like, even though I wouldn't pick Neil Turbin as my top singer, only because I'm smart and I know Belladonna is the voice of Anthrax, but this album is definitely my favorite. It's probably not the best album, but for me, for sentimental reasons, I really like it. I play this all the time, at least once a month, and I love it. I love the rawness of it too. It's really, really
cool. Yeah. All right, perfect. All right, Billy.
Where did you have "We've Come for You All"? I don't think I heard that. Where did you place that?
Oh, that was my 6.
Oh, 6?
Oh, that was
sorry. I skipped that one. It's right there.
Oh, maybe that's the one you were missing, or
quite possible.
Oh,
yeah.
We've Come for You All. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
guys. That makes sense. That's all right.
My writing is like, oh God.
No worries.
Yeah.
Okay, Billy. What about you?
So I'm going to do 11, 10, and 9. I can't even rank them. I hate them all equally. All John Bush albums. I mean, like many bands, they were completely lost in the 90s. Like this was not good. We already said it. Like not even Dimebag helped him out. He was on 2 of these albums, I believe. Just the songwriting's completely unmemorable, and the styles are all over the place. To my point about being lost, but groove metal is definitely on there. They're hopping on the trend of the period for sure. So yeah, that's 11, 10, and 9. So for me, number 8, Sound of White Noise. So I talked about this already, right? Like a big change in the band. Like I like John Bush, I like Armored Saint. I think this should have been an Armored Saint album and not I'm ranking Anthrax, not Armored Saint. Like I don't mind the album. Like I just it's not an Anthrax. It's not what I know from Anthrax. So I put it as number 8. Number 7, Fistful of Metal. So I knew I was going to be an outlier to you guys on everything here. Like, I mean, so John Turbin on vocals. I thought that was a funny story. Like when I was listening to like a Scott Ian interview, and he said the final straw on John was in the recording studio. Turbin was insisting on doing his vocal lines like 3 or 4 words at a time. And they had like no money to record this thing, right? And Neil was saying, well, that's the way Halford does it. Like he does small pieces and they put it all together. And he's like, they don't have any time for this, right? Like they've got no recording budget. So that was like a big part of why they didn't move forward with John Turbin later. I mean, just his recording approach just drove Scott Ian nuts. But also, I think for me, this album, like, I feel it was more speed metal-ish. Like
Yes.
I hear a lot of like, and I know like when I was prepping, like I saw a lot of this. Like there's a lot of like Exciter worship in here. Like so for me, it's just not original as the band was later. So you know, it's a bit more of a copycat. But in fairness, the band was still trying to find their sound, right? Like that's like that for bands. Number 6 for me, State of Euphoria. So like of that classic, like, you know, Joey early period, this is my least favorite. I prefer Spreading and Among, and you know how I felt about Among the things. That says something here, right? Like I find Joey even more out of place on this album. I think the songwriting is weaker than the other two with Joey that came before it. Like I have heard like this thing was rushed. Like Ian has even said they had the least time to do this, and the band's not totally
That's right
with it either. So like I mean, again, I'm no Anthrax expert, but I could hear that. For me, number 5 is worship music. So I don't know. I mean, the return of Joey. I think like a lot of people thought like they were going to go back to Among the Living, and you know, not quite. You know, this was more of a mix of like Persistence of Time, even a slight bit of John Bush era in a few places, but also hard rock and some traditional metal. But like for me, this thing fit Joey's singing style better for me. I also thought Joey, you know, his voice became more rich as it aged, right? I think he actually got better with age. So I found the musical style of the band and Joey merging. I thought it was a better fit. So you'll see why these albums are ranked higher for me. Number 4 is Among the Living. Like musically, I've said it. I enjoy the album. Vocally, it throws me off. Number 3 for me is again For All Kings. Like I actually like the album, and
Great
it's
album.
the same point, but even more so than worship music, right? I find Joey and the band connecting more. It's not a pure thrash album, right? It's not Among the
It's close. It's close.
It gets thrashy, but like it's I just find everything kind of mixes more. Some of the songwriting's more melodic too, which again matches Joey's voice for me. But you know, like The Battle Chose Us, You Gotta Believe, Breathing Lightning, Evil Twin, like a lot of great songs on there, and so that kind of worked for me. Then my number 2 is my favorite of the Joey albums is Spreading the Disease. Like I also feel, I mean, this was a huge improvement over Fistful, and so I think the band just got better at what they were doing. The songs were better. A definite upgrade from me, Neil, I think. But you know, I like kind of the raw sound of it, like the aggression, and I actually think Joey fits in better on this album of those big 3. Like I have least issues with the way he sounds here, so I don't know why that is. It's just kind of the way they integrate him better into the music style. But that's just me. And then yeah, for me the number 1 Anthrax album has always been from the time I heard it. Persistence of Time, right? Like I think it's definitely the most consistent Anthrax album, the most cohesive. Everything kind of fits there. The gimmicks and jokes and pranks are all gone. It's a serious, dark album, more mature. The lyrics are more mature, and I think Joey fits in perfectly. So yeah, I think this is great. Like this was his last album. Like he left with a serious like exclamation mark, and I'm not surprised the band went back to him. I would say the only song that I'm not the biggest fan of, I guess, like Jim, is Got the Time. Like I don't hate it, but I think it's the weakest.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's the weakest track on the album, but I don't hate it. But so yeah, that to me is where Joey and Anthrax musically it all came together perfectly.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think we're gonna all agree to some degree about Bush, to some degree. At number 11, I have Volume 8. It is probably their worst record.
Yeah.
I don't like the guitar tone for one thing. I hate it. Now they also have someone else who worked on that album. It's Paul Crook, who actually worked on a bunch of these albums. He was like their guitar tech, but he also filled in as like an unofficial guitar player. I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't know. It's not. I saw this tour actually here in Toronto at the Phoenix when they toured for this album, and it was all right, but wasn't blown away by it. Number 10, I have "We've Come For You All." Now Rob Caggiano's on guitar, and Caggiano's serviceable. Again, he was like their producer, so they brought him on to play, and he became a member, and it was all right, but I never really thought his style suited the band. The one thing I do note is that the later albums all have Alex Ross cover art, which is kind of interesting. So that's their continuation with the comic book connection. So I think that's kind of neat. Number 9, I have Stump 442. I do like the song "Random Acts of Senseless Violence." I think that's pretty good.
That's
yeah. There are some kick-ass songs on it, but it's a step down from "Sound of White Noise" for sure. Number 8, I have "Fistful of Metal." Now, I do like the album, but I don't know. It's primitive for me. I don't hear it very often. I mean, Metal Thrashing Mad, Death Rider, Soldiers of Metal. There's some really good songs on it. I just don't choose to play that often. Number 7, I'm putting "Worship Music." Worship Music was kind of the start to the right direction. I could see that they were trending upwards on this album. There are some good thrash, like I like "Hell on Earth." "Fight 'Em Till You Can" is the zombie song that Scott was made up as a zombie in the video, which I thought was kind of neat. So yeah, I think it was all right. I mean, Joey's pretty good on the songs. They're not quite thrash. A lot of like straight melodic rock. It's all right. Number 6, I have "Spraying a Disease." No, I was gonna put that further down the list, but I like this album, but I think I played this album to death. So I got a little bit bored of it. I mean, I do like Madhouse, Aftershock, Armed and Dangerous. There's some good songs on it. Yeah, Armed and Dangerous is really good. Yeah. But I've played it so much that I grew tired of hearing it after a while. Number 5, I have "For All Kings." This I feel is trending definitely upwards towards a much more thrash direction. And since I'm a huge fan of Shadows Fall, I love the fact that they finally went out and got a guitar player in Jonathan Dene, who actually suits their style a lot more than Caggiano, Paul Crook, or even anyone else they've had. He's not Dan Spitz, but he's damn well close. I love his leads. My only beef with him is that I don't think they give him enough love. He tends to be, they give him the leads, but they could let him do more to me if they let him loose a little bit. But yeah, this is great. Like, Evil Twin is great. Suzerain. Defend Avenge is probably one of my favorite thrash songs on that album. Zero Tolerance. Blood Eagle Wings is a really good song. Yeah, it's a really strong album for me. Number 4 is "State of Euphoria." I love this album a lot. Again, as I was just stating earlier, I just love the fact that they go back to Stephen King and they go back to David Lynch. I love the fact that they had a song called "Schism," which I totally love. I love that song. Number 3, it's "Sound of White Noise." And like Jimmy, I think this is the best John Bush album.
Yeah.
He joined the band. It's pretty strong. There's not a bad song. My favorite song is "Room for One More," which I totally love the anger and just the vitriol in that song. It's so great. Number 2 is "Persistence of Time." It's, as Jimmy and I talked before on a podcast, we both love this album. Dark, heavy, serious, "Keep It in the Family," "Blood," "In My World," "Time." It's got some great songs. And "Among the Living" is my favorite thrash album. And it was my number 1 pick for the Metal Pit in my top 50. I had it as my number 1 pick. So that's my ranking for the bands.
I didn't have any Anthrax in my top 50.
I didn't think you would. I can't even remember what you had. What was your number one pick again, Billy?
Metallica and Justice for All.
Okay, yeah, but I can see that for most people.
Mine was Kill 'Em All.
You'll Kill 'Em All, yeah. I know you're a big fan of Kill 'Em All. Yeah, Metallica is gonna I think for most thrash fans who grew up in that era, Metallica is gonna be like in the top three, at least top three. I think I had Justice as number 2.
But see how I like the primitiveness. So I like Killing Is My Business for Megadeth. I love the original. I don't like the remastered. I like it the warts and all. I like that.
The way it was meant to be heard, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. In most cases, I usually prefer the second or third or fourth album in more. Yeah, with the exception of Sacred Reich.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, oddly enough, I actually prefer the Anthrax, the deluxe edition for 2009.
Yeah,
I think that's so much better. The sound quality is so much better in that.
But what did they do? Like they didn't re-record they didn't.
No, they just remastered it.
Oh,
just okay.
Yeah, so they kind of cleaned it up, and it just sounds a bit better than the original recording.
Okay.
I don't know. It's preference, I guess, but I like it.
And for the Sound of White Noise, they had released Sound of White Noise, and then at Sam the Record Man, you got a bonus disc, which was Cowboy's Song, their cover of Thin Lizzy, and they do a really good cover of it. I have the actual bonus disc. Yeah. I think it's probably on the expanded edition.
Okay.
This is the OG one. So it's not on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the expand. I just have the OG version.
Same as me.
Okay, cool. Okay, does anyone have any final thoughts on Anthrax tonight before we close the books?
That's it.
Yep. What about you, Billy?
No, in the sake of getting myself in trouble, I'm going to keep quiet. But I will say, I do still regularly go to whenever Anthrax comes to the city I live.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever they're at the festival, I always go see them, right? I said it, I think I said it up front. I much prefer them live than I do on a recording.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the last time that they were in Toronto when they opened for a Testament, and who else was on that? Oh, Death Angel. Did you go to that show, Billy? Or were you here?
I was in Philly, I think.
Okay, yeah. There was a show they did with Death Angel, Testament, and Anthrax. Well, Anthrax was the middle show, but Testament closed the show. But that was the last time I've seen them. But yeah, I like going to their shows. I've seen them so many times now. I've lost count myself.
Yeah.
For me, but good band. Now, oddly enough, though, before we close, I'm not sure if we actually discussed what we were doing next week. Now, I don't remember. Maybe I'm just getting old.
No?
Is it
no, it was Testament.
Testament. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And what album did you want to do, Jim?
We didn't pick one out because I want to do Megadeth, but I'll do it the week after. So
okay, that's fine. What about you, Billy? What would be your pick?
I mean, we already did. I mean, for people who want to hear, I don't think we should redo. I'm having practice what you preach, because people can listen to our views on that on the Metal Pit, right? The three of us did that already.
What about The Gathering? Would you guys be good up for that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. There's a lot of interesting talking points to it, considering that it's partly a death metal album to some degree.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yep.
Okay. All right, folks, you heard it here first. We're going to be doing Testaments to the Gathering. Next Friday it will be released. So this Friday we will have Anthrax. All right, guys, I think that's all. And just before we go, we'll just reiterate again, please leave us some comments about what we thought of our one of our picks from each for the modern thrash from the last episode. And Billy has a shirt, which he's going to send out to the lucky winner.
I do have to say, I didn't know what size to buy. I bought a large.
Perfect.
So I guess keep that in mind. I can't wear it. It's too small for me, but.
That's okay. I'm sure somebody will, hopefully, somebody will leave us a comment and they will get a shirt.
There you go.
All right, boys. It was a good talk. I'm glad we had this discussion. It's pretty much my favorite thrash album of all time. And I'm glad Billy was able to put up with us and here's talking and gushing over it. So with that being said, let's sign off.
All right.
Good night.